Let me say something that might sound harsh, but it's financially true. Your 40s aren't where you start figuring it out. Your 40s are where you either harvest the results of the systems you built in your 20s and 30s, or you pay the price for the systems you didn't. And that's not motivational talk. That's math. Because by 40, three forces start to hit at the same time. Time gets more expensive. Every year becomes a larger percentage of your remaining working runway. Obligations increase. Family, health, parents, career responsibility. Life doesn't get lighter. Compounding becomes visible. Good decisions finally show up as momentum. Bad decisions show up as drag. So today, we're not doing hustle harder advice. We're doing 5 real milestones that create financial leverage. Milestones that make your 40s, 50s, and beyond dramatically easier. And here's the hook. None of these milestones require you to be rich today, but they do require you to be intentional, because the people who win long-term aren't the ones who do everything. They're the ones who do the right things early enough for time to multiply them. By the end, you'll have a practical checklist you can use this week. And as a bonus, I'll show you how these milestones connect, because they're not separate goals. They're a chain. Nail the first, and the others become easier. Skip one, and the rest get harder. Let's start with the milestone that quietly determines your freedom more than your income. Milestone 1. Build a freedom fund that buys you options. We need to clear up a common misunderstanding. Most people think an emergency fund is just a safety net. It's not. It's a power tool. Your freedom fund is the cash cushion that does 3 things. It keeps you from debt when life happens. It prevents panic decisions, selling investments at the wrong time, quitting a job without a plan, taking toxic work because you're desperate. It gives you negotiating leverage because you're not fighting for survival. In finance, we call this optionality. Options are expensive for people with no cash. Options are cheap for people with reserves. So what does good look like before 40? If you're a stable salaried employee, 3 to 6 months of core expenses. If you're in sales, commission, freelance, or business, 6 to 12 months, or at least enough to survive a slow season without credit cards. And I'll add a detail most people miss. This fund isn't built by saving harder. It's built by making your lifestyle robust. If your fixed expenses are massive, high rent, car payments, subscriptions you don't even use, you'll always need a bigger buffer, and it will always feel out of reach. This is why a freedom fund is a milestone and not just a tip. It forces a new identity. You become the kind of person who thinks, I don't need to impress anyone. I can survive volatility. I can choose what's best long-term. Now, once you have that base, you're ready for a bigger move, because you can finally take risk intelligently instead of emotionally. That leads us to milestone number 2, turning your money into a system. Milestone 2, automate wealth so it grows without your mood. If you want to measure whether someone has a real financial plan, don't ask how much they know. Ask this: is your wealth building automatic? Because if investing depends on motivation, you're not investing, you're hoping. Before 40, you want a system where you get paid. Money moves automatically to essentials and long-term goals. Investing happens on schedule. Bills get paid without chaos. You can't accidentally spend the future. Here's the professional way to structure this, simple but powerful. The 4-bucket system. Operating account. Income lands here. Bills and daily spending come from here. Freedom fund, your emergency/optionality cash. Investing account, automated contributions into diversified assets. Opportunity account, a smaller bucket for planned upgrades, travel, or a future business idea, so you enjoy life without sabotaging the plan. Why this matters? Wealth is largely about consistency and time. If you invest $500 a month reliably for years, you can outperform someone who invests $5,000 once, panics, and stops for a year. Now, what should you invest in? I'm not giving personal investment advice here, but as a financial principle, Before 40, your goal is usually broad diversification, low fees, and long time horizons. Not gambling on one big bet because you feel behind. The point isn't picking the perfect asset. The point is removing yourself from the decision loop. Automation protects you from fear during downturns, greed during hype cycles, lifestyle creep during good months. And here's the connection. Milestone number 1 gives you peace. Milestone number 2 converts peace into progress. Now that your money has a system, we need to talk about the engine that feeds the system, earning power. This is where most people make the biggest mistake. They try to optimize investments before they've optimized income. Let's fix that. Milestone 3. Become top tier at one high-value skill. Before 40, you don't need 10 side hustles. You need one strong economic engine, a skill that the market pays well for, consistently. There's a truth most people avoid because it removes excuses. Your income is often a reflection of the value you can produce and communicate. The wealthy don't just work harder, they become harder to replace, better at solving expensive problems, better at producing results under pressure, better at communicating those results. So here's your milestone. By 40, you should be able to say, I'm in the top 10% of my field at something specific. I can prove it with outcomes. If I lost my job, I could earn again quickly. This is financial resilience. The best way to do this is with a skill stack. Core skill, finance, sales, engineering, design, operations, marketing, leadership, whatever your domain is. Communication skill, writing, presenting, persuasion, negotiation. Leverage skill, tools/automation, systems, people management, distribution, or product thinking. Why these 3? Because the highest pay usually goes to people who can produce real value, explain it clearly, scale it beyond their hours. And yes, this is indirect wealth building. It doesn't look like money at first. It looks like studying, practicing, taking feedback, shipping, work, building a portfolio, building credibility. But it's the most reliable route to higher income without gambling. And now, a key link. Once your earning power rises, you face the biggest trap of your 30s. Most people don't lose because they don't earn more. They lose because they upgrade too fast. So milestone number 4 is the discipline that protects everything we've built so far. Milestone 4. Control lifestyle inflation. Protect the investing gap. If I could tattoo one financial principle on people before 40, it would be this. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you spend, invested over time. If your gap is small, you'll stay financially fragile even with a high income. If your gap is large, you can become wealthy on a normal income. Lifestyle inflation is the silent killer because it feels justified. I work hard, I deserve it. It's just one upgrade. This is normal for my age. I'll invest later when I earn more. But later is expensive. Because compounding doesn't care about your intentions, it only rewards your behavior. Before 40, your milestone is to have clear lifestyle rules. No high-interest consumer debt. No car payment that destroys your investing. No housing choice that forces financial anxiety. No monthly subscription creep you never audit. Instead, adopt a professional rule for raises and income jumps. The split rule. When your income increases, split the increase. 50% to investing/debt payoff, 30% to lifestyle upgrades, 20% to experiences, giving, or future optionality. This rule is powerful because it lets you enjoy progress without sacrificing the future. You don't have to live like a monk. You just need to stop upgrading at 100% speed. And here's the emotional truth. Lifestyle inflation is often about identity and social pressure, not comfort. The goal isn't to look successful. The goal is to be successful. Now, if you have a freedom fund, automated investing, high earning power, and controlled lifestyle, you're already ahead of most people. But there's one more milestone that determines whether you keep momentum after 40, reducing hidden risk and increasing long-term stability. Milestone 5. De-risk your life, health, relationships, and time strategy. This milestone is where financial expertise meets real life, because the biggest threats to wealth aren't always market crashes. They're personal events, burnout, divorce, chronic health problems, family obligations with no plan, careers built on stress instead of sustainability. Before 40, your milestone is to de-risk the foundations that money depends on. 1. Health as a financial asset. Your health determines how many years you can earn, how consistent your output is, how much medical cost risk you carry, how much energy you have to build skills, lead, and execute. You don't need perfection, you need a baseline system. Consistent sleep window, weekly movement, manageable stress, fewer habits that create brain fog. Because wealth requires consistency, and consistency requires energy. 2. Relationship alignment. This is blunt, but it's real. Your closest relationships can either multiply your wealth or destroy it. Before 40, you need clear financial values, honest communication about spending, shared long-term goals, boundaries with people who sabotage your discipline. Even if you're single, this milestone still applies. Choose relationships that support growth, not consumption and chaos. 3. Time strategy. People say, "I don't have time." Usually what they mean is, "My life has no structure." Before 40, you want a weekly rhythm. One block for money review, one block for skill growth, one block for health, one block for planning your next move. This isn't productivity for productivity's sake, it's wealth architecture. Because here's what happens after 40. The people who feel stuck often aren't lacking intelligence, they're lacking structure. Their weeks run them. If you build a time strategy now, you create space for the two things that compound most: skill capital. Let's tie the chain together. Freedom Fund gives you options and removes panic. Automation turns good intentions into consistent investing. Skill mastery raises your earning ceiling. Lifestyle control protects the investing gap that creates wealth. De-risking your life protects the whole system from collapse. And notice what we didn't talk about: getting lucky, timing the market, or chasing shortcuts. Because the people who win before 40 aren't always the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones with the best systems and the discipline to run them long enough. Here's your simple action plan for this week. Calculate your monthly core expenses. Set a Freedom Fund target. Automate one investing transfer, even small. Audit subscriptions and recurring spending. Choose one high-value skill to push for the next 90 days. If you do those 5 things, you're not just saving money, you're building a machine. And if you want the logical part too, here's the hook. In the next video, we'll talk about what to do once you've nailed these milestones, specifically, how to set a realistic net worth target by age, how to think about asset allocation by risk level, and how to avoid the most common investing mistakes people make in their late 30s and 40s. Comment Part 2 if you want that breakdown, and tell me which milestone you're working on first. Because before 40, the goal isn't perfection, the goal is momentum, and a system that makes the next decade inevitable.